Bon dia, Eva Cordia. Hi, everybody. Eimear Burke here. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. And this is Fireside Chat 178, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. And as is customary, I start with a prayer for peace. Gomara Siacon ar fud na crinne. Gomara Siacon in our jaili agus in our jirha. Gonairi lin len ar cuid garmacha. Gamwich buchas jeev. Jehe chuvdaka is spirit chuvdaka. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities, for peace. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the holy mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So let me see on this lovely summer's evening here in Kilkenny. The sky is blue with kind of wispy clouds, and it was warm today, about 22 degrees, which is hot for Ireland. So, hi Amy, and there's Nerida from Victoria, Queensland. Hi River, Canada. Hi Jane. Liz from Wyoming. Northern Arapaho, Cheyenne and Eastern Shoshone country. And Sean from Canada. Lovely to see you all. Brilliant. Who else are there? Oops. I'm going to hide that. That was a mistake. I'm putting all these things up. Hi Ricky from London, Birmingham. Just wonderful to see you all. Great. So we are going to the US this evening. We are going to New Mexico. So let me introduce my guest. We've got a twosome today. So I would like to introduce Rhiannon Bridgewater and Oak, Billy Stewart. So you're so welcome. And a second welcome again to Billy. And he's been my guest before, and he featured giving a presentation on the banjo and his bardic talents on one of the online winter gatherings during COVID. And Rhiannon is her first time. So you're both very, very welcome.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm not too sure. I know, Billy, you live in Taos, New Mexico, and Rhiannon, I don't know where you are. So I know you're in New Mexico, but just tell us where you are and what your landscape's like.
Okay, sure. I live in Santa Fe. It's the capital of New Mexico. It's actually been the capital for like 500 years. In whatever country is ruling it. And we're up in the beautiful mountains, 7,000 feet above sea level.
Oh.
And it's really lovely. It is definitely high desert though. So we are rather careful with water here. So, yeah.
So high desert, does that mean hot during the day, cold at night, or do you have cold spells?
It tends to be warmer during the day, but it doesn't get usually extremely hot here. We will get some 90 degrees. Occasionally in Santa Fe, we might get to 100, but that's Fahrenheit. So you would be boiling.
Okay.
But the air is very dry here. So, and because we're so high, it also cools down quite a bit at night. So last night, it cooled down. It was very comfortable.
Yeah.
60-ish. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but it was lovely.
Oh, brilliant. So you're getting lots of greetings. You've got Lloyd saying hi to you. And Ricky Gellison is saying hi. Yes. And Andrew Kim and Copper Celtic. So anyway, you are known.
I am. I know and love all of those guys. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I'm because I don't know you very well, Rhiannon. I've never actually, so I've met you physically, Rhiannon, but I've never met you, Billy, but we've spoken a number of times. So Tell us a little bit about your background, Rhiannon. I
Oh,
suppose your person background, and then there's your spiritual background, and other we'll come back to it on how you found Druidry and Obod.
oh, okay, sure. Um, so I'm kind of one of those people that have not gotten to live in the same place for all my life. My dad was in the military, so I grew up mostly in North Dakota and grew up in a Catholic family. Decided to go to minor seminary in another life, in my first life. Yeah, and as time went on, I left Catholicism. I eventually studied, went to divinity school in the Lutheran Church,
Okay.
and served as a pastor in 3 different parishes. And also, after I left the Lutheran Church, I served with the Metropolitan Community Church for a time and did pulpit supply occasionally for other churches that were welcoming and affirming congregations to LGBTQ people. And so anyway, basically how I came to Druidry was in 2020. I think I had as close to a mental breakdown as you could possibly have when I was pastoring my last Lutheran church. And it really came down to me finally just admitting to myself what I had known since I was 9 years old, was that I was trans. I actually knew I was different before then, but when I was 40 years old, I felt like I was forced by myself. My soul just couldn't do it anymore. And I had to do the craziest thing I've ever done and step out and decide that I wanted to be a more authentic person. How could I be preaching if I couldn't preach authentically? Not that what I was saying was in any way wrong, but that was kind of the beginning for me. And then I started digging more like into the Gnostic traditions in Christianity, studying like the Nag Hammadi, the Dead Sea Scrolls, all of these kinds of things. Started reading Elaine Pagel, Gandhi and Freaky, who have been, I know Freaky has been on, I think at a winter gathering, if I remember right. And these guys were really influential for me. It really helped me in that transitional period. And then because of my study of Gnosticism, I started getting interested in Druidry about 5 years ago. And I started watching Philip on Tea with a Druid, started listening to Druidcast, and was like totally taken with Dave the Bard, so charming, and just reveling in this whole thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I found my people. And in 2023, I was still debating. I'm like, which order do I want to study with? And I was considering our lovely AODA here in the States, but I also was really looking at Obod. And because of my English roots on my mom's side and my love of all things English, I've been an Anglophile my whole life. Ultimately, I decided for Obod. But the thing that pushed me to make the decision finally was I had a stroke in 2023, like 2 weeks before my 63rd birthday. And when I got out of the hospital, I'm like, I'm enrolling. I'm just going to start studying with Obod. So I think that stroke, I thank the gods and goddesses every day that I had that stroke, because it led me to this wonderful community, this worldwide community. And I'm so blessed that I have my brother, Billy, here, who I just adore. And and all of my friends really, like, all over the world. And like, it's just been an amazing journey. So anyway, that's basically it.
It's interesting how the universe strikes you, as in stroke.
Yeah.
And then something else. And then, of course, life is too precious to be faffing around and wasting time. Just do it. And
absolutely. Yeah.
The day.
Whack.
I'm interested because, and it's lovely that you say you found home, because so many people do. And we have the oddest of people in our order. And it's a very diverse melting pot of all sorts of individuals, all sorts of backgrounds and spiritual beliefs and all sorts of, and all of that, and nationalities, of course. And we have members on all 20 continents in the world. Anyway, I know there aren't 20 continents in the world. If anyone needs to correct me, I know that's a joke. But anyway, and so many people, there are many people who have left their primary religion or spiritual background saying, that was not good for me, it was bad, blah, blah, blah. And now I've discovered this, I'm either Druid or I'm a pagan, because not all Druids are pagan. And I found my home and I'll never go near that again. And then there are others go, no, I want to integrate my Christianity or my Islam or my Judaism or my Buddhism. And have you left your Lutheranism, your Christian? I mean, you left Catholicism and maybe found more freedom within Lutheranism. Have you woven any of that into your Druidic practice, or have you laid it aside or said goodbye? Or I'm trying to.
I think it's kind of like that treasured mentor or family member that has passed on, and you keep their photo around and you cherish the memory. And so it's not saying that was not a value and that my relationship with Jesus wasn't real. It's not saying that. I just don't have the same relationship. It's more like when my grandparents passed, I don't communicate with them in the same way. It doesn't mean I don't have like some sort of sense of connection.
Yeah.
So I do still have icons in my house, but I also have like other deities, and I have mixed ideas on what I believe. I don't believe like in a anthropomorphic God that is in charge of everything. It's much more Gnostic than that. But I do like having like Caradwyn and Rhiannon and Arenrod and Hecate, Persephone, and Demeter. Those are my primary goddesses that I talk to and work with. And I appreciate them. Now, maybe they're just aspects of myself. Maybe they're archetypes. Yeah. But you know what? Like Christopher Hughes says, does it matter? No. They're still real. And to me, they're kind of real in the same sense that characters I'm writing about in a novel are real to me because I know who they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a relationship with them, but I feel like my connection overall is basically nature, the Great Mother. It is this world that is just full of everything that we need, everything that can make us happy, everything that can make us sad at times as well. And so I think between my study of Gnosticism, my appreciation of Stoic philosophy and delving into that, and my Christian background, I think these have all added to the richness of my experience as a Druid. Because I think all of those things, in one way or another, do have this aspect of respect for nature and stewardship of nature. I think it's been perverted by many people in the Christian traditions, as it is in others. But overall, I do believe that even the Old Testament, the Torah, and the New Testament, they still teach that we're supposed to be respectful of the creation. So
I think that's a beautiful way of putting it, like people have passed that have been close to you, that they're there and the icons are still there. I think that is a beautiful way. And I think to be able to appreciate the foundation that you've had and how it stands to you, it has served its purpose. That sounds very utilitarian, and I don't mean that.
No.
But that you may have had a teacher in your life, and then you outgrow that teacher because they've taught you all you need to know or all that they can teach you. Yeah. You value that and you move on and you continue to grow. And I think it's lovely to be able to hold that. Brian says lots of great aspects of Christianity. I use Jesus as an archetype in my own life. And then Jules says, well said, that's the beauty of Druidry, a wonderful blending of deities. And Sean, whether or not their objective is secondary to the reality that the universe behaves as if they are. So respond accordingly.
Yeah.
Now, Liz Hills was in Wyoming. Is Rhiannon an author? I would love to know more. So, first question to you. What kind of an author
Yeah.
are you?
Okay. I did one volume of poetry in 2003. I still have copies of it. It didn't sell a lot. I never really pushed it. I am working on.
What's the title? What's the title?
I don't know that they can even find anywhere, but it's called Venus on the Half Shell.
Venus on the Half Shell.
Yeah. And it's under my old surname under Kohl, Kohl.
Kohl, just that.
Yes. So if they can find it, they might find something, but I still have some copies available. I'm working on a newer volume. That volume is really just all about my experience as a transgender person. And there's poems in there that are very personal that were written towards my daughter and my son, and also my ex-wife. But I'm working on a newer volume now that is mostly spiritual. It's about my spiritual journey, and a lot of poetry set in Santa Fe. And there's even some English poems in there, and there's some poems from Italy when I went. So I'm working on that. I'm also working on a novel that hoping I can finish it this year. And I'm being encouraged to write a spiritual memoir. So by my lovely friends in Wales. So I'm going to work on trying to get kind of put together a prospect for that. So, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, that is just wonderful. So Neri I left organized Christianity, but loved what Jesus represented, so I've kept him, and I have my own relationship to God in parentheses and other forms, different deities. Beautiful. So I'm going to come over to. I'm really interested. Also, you just not now, but when you, as a pastor, you then came out as a trans person and what that meant. I'm just interested in maybe if you're happy to share that. What was that like? And of course, your family. That's quite a complex journey. And but just Billy, would you like to share some of you? I know you've spoken before, but I don't know if everybody here has heard you before. And even not, it might be nice to hear it again because you've had a really interesting path as well.
Oh yeah, I've had a very alternative path. I didn't really go to school. 7th grade is when I left school as a child. And I've lived a very alternative path. So I was too, I think a lot of us were always looking for God. So so I was very strong Christian since I was really little. And my parents, they were, Jesus was this hippie with a lamb in his arms. And my dad said, only read the red. So in some Bibles, what Jesus said was in red. My dad was like, only read the red, the rest of it, So I only got the thou shalt love. So when I came out very young as a lesbian, of course, we're all going to talk about being trans today. So as a lesbian coming out in my early teens, suddenly I found out they all hated me. And so I left the church pretty soon after that. I was surfing at the time, and I had spiritual awakening surfing. I'm like, wow, the ocean is God.
You were not walking on water, you were surfing on water.
Much walking on water at that time. I don't think I mentioned this in the last one, but in 1974, I got 4th place in the U.S. Surfing Championships. And in 1975, I got 2nd place in the U.S. Surf Championships.
Well done.
So I was really into surfing, but everything kind of came crashing down on me. And I'm not going to get into that part. I'm going to get into what led me to witchcraft. Because soon after, I got deeply into drugs because everything came crashing down. And then me and my friends started going to this bookstore in Los Angeles called the Bodhi Tree. And we were like reading books like the Bhagavad Gita, but we found the witchcraft section, And that was it. And I was really lucky because I also worked at Renaissance Fair. So I got to meet this woman, Ruth Barrett, who was Z Budapest, one of Z Budapest. So I had that whole thing, and yes, they were they're TERFs now and all that, but this was way before any of that. This was women's feminist movement, and I really got deep into the goddess movement, and I was so lucky. I was in the right place at the right time, where I got to meet Starhawk. I got into reclaiming. I worked with a woman named Shakina Mountain Waters, who wrote a lot of the songs that we sing today. We are the weavers, we are the web, we are the witches back from the dead. You know, that was one of her verses that they don't really sing anymore, and I wish they did. It's such a good verse. And so it was just in the right place at the right time. I couldn't read or write. People taught me to read and write. I still don't read well today, but I definitely, I don't write well today, but I definitely read better. And I just was picked up by this big, huge wave and got really into activism, deep into activism and reclaiming. I did work with Earth First, environmental activism. I think it was 1982, all my gay friends, men friends started dying around me. My whole household died. I lived in a gay household. So I got deep into AIDS activism in ACT UP. I was a member of ACT UP. I sat at the bedside of the dying, all that kind of thing that we did back then.
Just tell us a little bit about ACT UP.
ACT UP was an organization, and they're doing meetings and stuff now again. That's really great. But it came about that we realized we needed to take care of our dying because nobody else is. The family's afraid. And we were kind of like, as lesbians, we were like, well, we're not getting it. So this is happening to our gay brothers, you know. So we figured, well, we must be immune or something. So we're okay. So we were helping, bringing food, sitting by our brothers and sisters. We also did a lot of demonstrating. We were in the streets of San Francisco, just loading up the streets of San Francisco, trying to get AIDS awareness. You know, we were doing things like I'd go up to somebody who was riddled in sores and give them a big kiss on the cheek, you know, stuff like that, you know, to give awareness to, like, you know, you're not going to get this that easily, you know. So that's what
that's beautiful. So you know Ricky Rhiannon, Ricky Gellison. So Ricky's a nurse, and back in the day, he worked. I think it's called the Lighthouse, working with people dying of HIV, and he was a guest. Oh, I don't know, a few years ago, and we both cried. But you know, I was listening to the Women's Hour today. And, you know, I think we think HIV is gone. It's not. It's still there. And it's now affecting straight women.
Yeah.
In the US, in the UK. There's a high number. So they were talking about this a preventive drug called PrEP. It's an acronym for something. But women haven't been aware of that. And there's always been the assumption it's gay men. But now it's straight women. So
we need to let women know PrEP. It works. You know?
It's been straight women here for a long time.
Has it? Okay.
In the States. And for a time, it seemed like they were the fastest growing population. So it is good that we have medications that people can use ahead of time to hopefully prevent them getting infected at all. But I have several friends that have been HIV positive for decades
and
that
are
are still flourishing because of the amazing medications that we have now. It's not the death sentence it was.
No,
in the early
absolutely
80s.
not. And I know people who are HIV positive but not infected.
Yes.
So there's some Fable says, thank you for doing that essential and beautiful work, Billy. That is near to my heart as my brother died of AIDS in 1989. I'm so sorry. And then it's just Sean McCann, good on you, courageous. Pat Booker, she was just a pre-exposure prophylaxis. That's the PrEP. And Monica, blessings on you, Oak and Rhiannon, you do important work. And Nimi says, yes, the message still needs to be told. And Ricky, without women and lesbians stepping up, we would have been swamped in the early days.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So a lot of people helping about PrEP as pre-exposure prophylaxis. Yeah. So, but I'm glad to know that that's there. But I was just interested in that statistic. It was higher than we would ever. And I mean, I've lived in Africa where it wasn't gay men; it was heterosexual people,
Right.
both men and women who had it. So, just interesting. But of course, if you have access to either PrEP or you have access to the treatment once you get it, then it's fine. The difficulty is when there isn't access to the treatment.
Absolutely.
Anyway. So
that could be a problem going forward in a lot of our countries, the way things are going. So it's kind of scary.
So I cut across you there, Billy, and I wanted to make reference to that, just kind of link that in with the past. Robin says, "Thank you for your help towards our community." So, all right. So now I think now that we've kind of had the little pause, how about some music? You've abandoned. This is because you had played the banjo as a guest on my chat, and also I think it was 2021 at the Winter Gathering. Well, I think we were looking at diversity in Druidry, so we're looking at Druidry, New Zealand, the US, and you gave the history of the banjo and how you found that as a bardic expression, and now have you put it like Rhiannon with her Christian deity? Is that what's happened with the banjo? And now you've taken on another instrument?
Well, sort of. So I've been multi-instrumental all my life. I started out, so I was playing guitar in punk rock bands in the 80s. I was playing bass in grunge bands in the 90s. I played bluegrass guitar in the early 2000s, and then I picked up the banjo. And a few years ago, right around COVID, because we weren't playing out, I was like, I want to learn the mandolin. And so I bought myself a smaller mandolin, and I was, really working on that. And the way I am, if I'm going to learn something, because I mentioned earlier about the school, that had a lot to do with my disabilities, my learning, or, I'm on the spectrum with those things. So it's like, it's not always that easy. So for me to make a deep dive, I need to make a deep dive into the instrument. So for now, I've pretty much put the banjo away. We do play a gig next week, and I will be playing a couple of tunes on the banjo. But right now I'm playing the mandolin. I'm learning Irish mandolin, and I'm playing bluegrass mandolin kind of side by side. And I also got myself a octave mandolin, and I hadn't written songs since I wrote punk rock songs. And all these pagan songs came through. And I mean like five songs and 4 tunes. Tunes are a song without lyrics. So I wrote like these tunes, and I've written some pagan songs. Today I would, though, because it's Juneteenth, if we have time, I'd like to do one of my originals, but I'd also like to do a song that was probably written right after slavery. So you probably want to ask what Juneteenth is.
Yeah, I was just about to. Just before you do that, Fable. I got to hear Billy at Albuquerque Pagan Pride. He was marvelous. Julia Telfer says, "Great to see you again, Rhiannon, and to meet Oak." And Andrew Anderson would please do some punk on the mandolin. Now, Ben Simpson wants to know, are you going to play the Carnacs, Rhiannon? But so anyway, listen. Off you go. So Juneteenth, come on, explain.
I'm going to let you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, okay. So during the time of the Civil War, which initially was not really about slavery, it was really about the secession of the southern states, who wanted to maintain their agrarian lifestyle with the use of enslaved people. But this thing had been brewing for a long time. Anyway, so they secede from the Union. Civil War starts up. 1863, Lincoln, on a battlefield in Pennsylvania, writes this very short speech, but very powerful, poignant speech, and it was called the Emancipation Proclamation. Many Americans know at least the first part of this because it starts out 407 years ago, our forefathers brought forth on this continent, blah, blah, blah. And it's really beautiful stuff. But the essence of it was that from this time, all enslaved people are free, and they are to be viewed as any other person, and the relationship between them and their former masters is now that of maybe an employer and labor. Anyway, it took some time for this information to make it to Texas, because even where we live here, there was Civil War stuff going on. Not very far from here in Glorieta, but even in Santa Fe, we had Union troops and we had battles going on. So anyway, I think it was, I don't know if it was that year or the next year. It took a long time for the information to get to Texas.
1863.
I think it was too. But anyway, it was the 19th of June when the African American, the Black people, the formerly enslaved now, finally heard the news, and there was such rejoicing about this. And so as time went on, and more free Black communities were founded, not just in the South, but in other places, they took the celebration of Juneteenth with them. And it became a very important highlight to them that we are equal. This led to an amendment to the Constitution, which did, for the first time, allow Black men to vote. We still didn't have women voting yet, but it did allow Black men to vote as well. So it is really an important day, and I was so pleased that finally our country did make it a national holiday, although the current regime is downplaying it. So we are going to upplay it, and we're going to rejoice with our African American brothers and sisters and siblings for that day that we now recognize they are equal. We're all equal. We love each other. We all want the same things. And having gone to a historically Black college and knowing many very lovely people when I lived in South Arkansas for 8 years, I have a real love for these people, for their tradition, for their foods. I'm grateful for their friendships and the things that they have taught me. And I can't say that we should ever ignore, we can't be colorblind. We cannot ignore these things. They have a history of trauma, but they also have a history of resilience. And this is where I think this plays into mine and Billy's experience and the experience of the LGBT community, but particularly the trans part of it. We are resilient, and this is a connection that I feel with my Black family.
Yeah,
is they have endured a lot, we have endured a lot, and yet we are all going to prevail, and we're going to keep fighting together. So
solidarity. Ricky said, I read the other day that this is one of the few national holidays that not all states allow schools to teach.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the tragedy that's going on now in this country, is this shutting down, like don't say gay, banning gender affirming care for youth. And we just had a decision yesterday or the day before on this case where they upheld Tennessee's ban on gender affirming care for youth, which is a dark day that happens. So there is a lot of fear and concern in our community. But my feeling is I just keep going back to, let's remember that we are resilient people. Let's build our community stronger. Let's stand with each other. We stand with our immigrant neighbors. We stand with all minorities. We stand with our Muslim neighbors. We are not letting anybody escape from our protection. We're going to be there together. And that's what I see going around the country with these massive, massive protests.
Yes, peaceful ones.
They're peaceful and they're beautiful.
They are peaceful.
And they're joyful, but they're so powerful.
Yeah.
And so I love that. And so I love that Billy and I get to see each other, and we're trying to make sure we have stronger bonds in our pagan community in Santa Fe and New Mexico in general, but also just our trans community, our trans relationships. So,
Great. Another comment from Billy, or from not Billy, Ricky. When they try to bury you, remind them that that is how seeds grow and you have deep roots.
Yes, I do. I'll come back.
Yeah.
And
Sean said, I've heard Jewish holidays described as, they tried to kill us, we survived, let's eat. That sense of recognizing resilience, joy connection. That's great.
Yes, absolutely.
So, as we say at an Irish session, Billy, away lad.
Away lad.
Away lad.
I'm going to step off the screen for a minute and let Billy have the stage.
Okay.
All right. So real quick, a little bit about the song. It's a traditional song, so we don't know where it came from, but the lyrics, our traditional lyrics, definitely go back to probably right at the end of slavery, because it really didn't end. People are still, to this day, people are enslaved by not being allowed to go to different schools, by the fact that, I lived in Los Angeles when I was young, and you would go into African-American areas, and the only thing that they had were liquor stores. There's still enslavement. So I think this song really calls to that. And so here we go. my knees. Lord, I was in prison and I was on my knees. Lord, I was way down. I was on my knees. Lord, I ain't gonna be treated this way. I'm going down the long and lonesome road. Lord, I'm going down that long and lonesome road. I'm going down the long and lonesome road. That old road. I ain't gonna be treated this way. Oh, Lord, I ain't gonna be treated this way.
Lovely.
Thank
I
you,
have
Rian.
Robin says, I have goosebumps, and love sings to us. Sounds like the heartbeat of resistance. So lots of applause as well. Thank you so, so much. That was beautiful. Rhiannon,
Yes. Would
your
you like
poetry and what is, because you mentioned your journey. So what is it that, how has it inspired your poetry? Just to talk a little bit about that journey, if you can.
Yeah. I think, and I was reflecting on this recently. I don't know why, but I feel like I'm one of those kind of people that's in a liminal place most of my life. You know, I feel like even though I identify with the binary as a woman, I still kind of a little bit, you know, but we all are. We're all a little bit of both, right? But also, like, I think about, like, what are my favorite times of day? It's those liminal times. It's in that space right before sun comes up, but the birds are singing, and it's just gorgeous and still, and it feels like you're the only person in the world. And also that moment at the end of the day is the same way for me. I like those liminal spaces. I'm the same way with seasons. I love spring. I love fall. I appreciate summer and winter. I don't like being overly hot, and I don't particularly like being overly cold as I'm older. But a lot of my life feels like it's this. And I feel like we're all kind of in this, we're in constant transition, all of us. Sometimes we can acknowledge that we are. Some people do not. I still remember my dad when I first transitioned, he said, well, you may change, but we don't change. And I'm going, that's a really sad thing to say. I felt that because for me to not change means that I'm dead. But even then, there's still change to what's left to this body. It will decay and decompose and become part of the mother again. So the liminality, the alchemy, the transition is all really important to me in my poetry. And the communication that I feel like we get through nature around us, the synchronicities. It's amazing, like, how many times in my life it's things like bees and ravens that are messengers for me. I can tell you that in this garden, I've been out there early in the morning with the hose and watering my irises, and a honeybee, this happened several times, will come up and sit on my hand. And it just sits there, and it just wants to be warm. And I'm like, it's just cherished. And I talk to it as a little sister. And I acknowledge its sentience, its place in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you stay as long as you want, little honey. That happened last year, oddly enough, up on the tour during the ceremony. And I was doing bardic stuff for the East, I think. And I remember during that ceremony, it was pretty amazing, the time when the dove went swooping up over us. But there was also a bee that was hanging out on the east end of the tour. And it came and it sat on my hand. And I'm going, oh my gosh, you're the same kind of little messenger that I get back home in the US. And it had hung around with me. I love that. So
That happened to me at Bealtaine last year at Ishnok. One was spent the day on my hat.
oh, I love that. I love it when they hang out with us. Yeah.
It's just really, really sweet.
Yeah, it is. So I have several poems. I have one that is very New Mexico. It's called June Morning Meditation that I could read. And then if we have time, I also have some of my poems from my first book that are about my transition. So would you like June Morning Meditation?
Well, we'd like both.
Okay, well, let's do June Morning Meditation first. Okay. Morning is only a finger width old over the mountains as raven screams above the adobe's door. I deadhead larkspur and daisies to prolong their blooming, but daisies and larkspur will give way to high summer's blooms. June reminds me of the season's swift flight, 3 months till autumn, and then winter, but I will not dwell. Raven, rasp an exhortation from the roof, never more. Selah. I set my shears aside and sit. I am bathed in the radiance of our star, its sacred luminescence, a communion of all things. I am something more in this moment. I am of that circle. I am of that unity. Selah. I smell and almost hear the peaches becoming fat and ripe. I feel the vibrato busyness of bees and lavender. My mouth yearns for the promise of honey. Sheen of sacred moonflower still enchants. Unfurled last night, now limp. Beauty in all. Raven screams from the wall. She lifts off. For a moment, I hear only the thwomp, thwomp of her sable wings, and then a last primordial croak.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, do you want me to do another one? I'll do another one.
Go on.
Okay, because I don't read these very often. Some of these I've never read before. So.
I was just asked if I'd run the music for our Pagan Pride. And the first thing I'm like, can we have a poetry jam and have Rian run it? So hopefully more poetry.
I will. I'll be glad to do it. Yeah. Okay, so this one is from my book, Venus on the Half Shell. And it's the first poem in the book. It's called Standing in the Boys' Locker Room. To be naked alone was one thing, but to undress for PE, that is physical education, where anyone could and did see me, quite another, for one who felt naked even when clothed. Standing behind the locker door, I wished I was invisible. I pretended that if I don't look, they won't either. So not looking, but aching with envy of their strength and utter confidence in their young manhood, knowing that I didn't belong, not here, nor in the other locker room. I rushed with fumbling fingers to pull on my jeans and sweater to protect me from their gazes. I prayed no eye would pierce the armor of my seeming nonchalance and find I hid a trembling, girlish heart. Only clothed in boy's hide, I longed to remove as easily as my damp sweat socks. I felt more naked than naked in the boys' locker room.
Wow.
I would like to say something about that. I can relate so much to that poem. I mean, I feel the same way. Even like we talk about, I was in women's communities when I was young, and I felt like such an outsider. Like women would, even though I had trauma, we talked about it in the last time I was on your show, I had trauma that women go through, most women go through some sort of sexual trauma. I had all those things so I could relate to it, but I also just felt like such an outsider and so different and so like I didn't belong. Like they're bearing their soul but I felt like a guy. And I was also like, that was back when my hormones were raging. I also found him attractive. I felt like I shouldn't be there, even though I was an important part of that movement. And I realize that today, but it's still, and all those things like in locker rooms, how I felt in locker rooms. So I think that poem, I'd like to get that poem out to the greater trans community, because that, I mean, that to me is so.
Oh, thank you.
So like, oh my God, I'll cry.
It's incredibly powerful. And so comments here, that was beautiful and potent. It's wonderful. Definitely understand from Nimi. So brave and moving. Absolutely. And it's a very painful poem because it's coming from deep, deep pain. And wow, you know, it's very, very raw. And get it out there. And Nimi says you express that so perfectly. Beautiful.
Thanks.
So so you had two. How many children have you?
I have two. I have a son who is soon to be 38, which is scary to say because it wasn't me. And my daughter just turned 35.
So you were young when you had your kids.
Yeah, I think we were 20. We were both 27 and 30 when we had them. So
okay, I was 39 and 42, so much older. I'm around the same age as you, but old enough to be my children's grandmother.
Yeah, we waited about 5 years after we got married before we had Ransom. So I'll just say his name because I love his name so much. So at Ransom, and he's a lovely young man. And
so, what was it like for your children, for you to transition, or can I ask that question? I can ask it, but you mightn't answer it.
No, you can ask it, and I will answer that. Honestly, I'm not sure what's going on with my daughter these days. We have not talked in 12 years. I'm not exactly sure why. But we were close, and when I transitioned, I think she was 10 or 13. I can't remember. And we used to go on road trips and stuff all the time. We had a good time. She was very accepting of me. And,
wow. Okay.
My son had a much harder time. It was a longer journey with him, but he went to therapy and he did his thing. And then we started having conversations again. And we don't talk very often, but when we do, it's quality and quantity both. We tend to have very long conversations. I would say he's neurospicy as well. And so we get into long conversations about books and movies and other things and just what's going on in our lives and spirituality. And he's a very smart young guy, and I love him to death. So I love both of them so much. And but I realize they're young adults. They have their own lives. They're doing the thing. I'm an older adult and I have my own life and I'm doing things. So it's fine whenever we connect. But he really touched my heart a few years ago because he did start calling me mom. And I didn't ask him to do that. I said, you could just call me by my name. But he started calling me mom. And that did mean a lot to me. And it means a lot that my nieces and nephews are all very affirming of me. I'm Aunt Rhea. They love me. There's several of them that I'm particularly close to that I communicate with more often, but I have a good relationship with all my nieces and nephews and my siblings. I'm very blessed that I have siblings that are supportive. My mother is supportive, but we're currently not talking because of stuff that's going on in the country, unfortunately. But it took her a long time before she accepted me for me. But then she finally did. And she's like, yeah, she calls me her daughter. And she tells people that. My aunts are also both accepting. So I feel very fortunate that even though we got off to a rocky start, that my family and I are as close as I need them to be. And that they want me in their lives. So
you see, the thing is, things when people make changes and profound changes like you both did, of course there's going to be some kind of reaction.
Yeah.
And whatever the reaction is, that's fair enough. What always impresses me is the coming around and the working through it and the resolution that is arrived at. And everybody has their own pace and their own journey with it. because people may have biases, but they may also be worried for you. There may be all sorts of reasons.
Yeah.
Then they have to change their relationship if you've been an uncle to an aunt. Now, interesting, there's one trans woman advocate in Ireland. She's a therapist, and I've been to a few of her workshops. And she said, so she was married and she has, I think, 3 kids, but she was taking her teenage son to the doctor after she had transitioned. And the doctor said, what does mum think? And he said, and this is really interesting, in response to your daughter calling you mum, or your dad or your son calling you mum. What this woman said, no, I'm not her mother. I'm not his mother. He has a mother. I'm his dad. And my relationship, and this is the complexity of transitioning.
Yeah.
And it's about being able to hold that duality, that I am a trans woman, but I'm also this young man's father, and that's not going to change. And being able to hold it, because some people go, no, you're either one or the other. In fact, well, no, because this is how complex it is. So I'm really intrigued that your son is able to call you mum, and I take it he calls his mum as well.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, people do have 2 mothers and 2 fathers.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah. And it was nice because he came down to visit in 2019. It was his first time to New Mexico. And I brought him down for his birthday for 5 days. And we went hiking, and we were sitting on a bench when we came back down from the mesa, and we were talking to people, and they kept referring to me as his mom. And he was like perfectly fine with it, you know? So if anything, it was more me than him, you know. But I'm like, okay, that's cool. So but he's fine. He's absolutely fine with me at this point. So I'm very happy. We've had some really, really, really healing conversations over the last probably 6 years, 7 years.
And you see, that's the gift we can give to those we care about, be they friends or family, to have the conversations and to give them time. And, you know, it can take years to be able to, well, just like often that happens with developing any kind of a relationship with somebody, to get to know them and to deepen that and to have those honest conversations. Yeah. And I think that takes a lot of courage and a lot of patience and a lot of maturity. I mean, God bless me for using that word. But Sean's in Canada, speaking as the stock image of the straight, white, middle-aged and wears a collar, no less. He's a druid and a bishop. Nice. I'm grateful for being able to, I'm going to be seeing him next week in Canada. I'm grateful for being able to hear these experiences and for the environment that welcomes their telling. Now, Fable, who's a fan of yours, Billy, I have to run. It's been truly lovely. Thank you, Eimear, Billy and Rhiannon. And then Judith Langland Scott, you may know her. Rhiannon is an absolute darling, was lucky enough to enjoy her company at last year's summer gathering. Much love to her.
Oh, thank you.
And Jane, in our family, my stepsons call my trans wife by her name, and they've both been extremely accepting. So they don't call her mum or dad. They call her by her name. Brilliant. So again, there's no rules about this, and it's all about negotiating and navigating our relationships with each other and being able to have honest. I do think name changes are difficult when, you know, you've always called somebody by a name and somebody wants to change it. And maybe you don't like the name and maybe you prefer their old name. There's all sorts of, you know, and how to go with that. And even, you know, when married women would change their surname, I never did. But I still refer to my friends that I knew before they were married because I can say their maiden name because that's how, in a context, I see them. So, but it's all of that. But it's about negotiation and conversation and giving it time.
Absolutely. I think that too. I touched on this in our very first interview we did with each other. Is that I think that's something that we really need to pass on to the younger youth of today, the younger trans and non-binary youth. To also because I'm older. I turned 67, and I get that. You know, I blame it on so many Grateful Dead shows too, but the memory loss, those things like is a thing. And older people, when I was transitioning, I was making orthotics, and orthotics is a thing you put in a shoe to help people with their feet pain and body pain. And I was working with a lot of older people, and they were so accepting. When I got top surgery, most of the people that gave to my GoFundMe I put up was older women. That was the majority, older straight women who get like $600 at a time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. But a lot of them couldn't get my name right away. And I made it really easy for people, but they didn't get my name right away. They'd have trouble with pronouns. And it's not that they were transphobia. I mean, that's elder phobia. When people are so mean to elder people by them just getting by,
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out to the youth. Like if an older person messes up your pronouns or your name, if you know they're trying to get it right, don't shame them. It's hard enough. It's hard enough getting older, And
Well, I don't remember people's names. I remember faces. And sometimes people look alike. Now, I used to be a redhead. And when I was a child, older people would say, is that your sister? I used to be a nurse or in the school. Is the other redhead, is she your sister? That, all redheads are all related. And I'd say, no, people do. So if you're the blonde or you both wear glasses or whatever it is, all those kind of things. So it's again, people can make mistakes and they're not dead naming you or dead gendering you or dead whatever it is. People do this all the time. Jules says, your story strikes such a positive note. My cousin's transition was beyond challenging in Wyoming. I wish she could hear this. Jane Rowan says, you look amazing. I don't know who Jane you're referring to. Billy and Rhiannon are both. And then Good Wendigo, they're not trying to misgender you. If they're trying to be patient with them, their entire world has changed drastically and they're trying to keep up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and honestly, in my case, I've changed my name 3 times. So
yeah, me too.
And you have 2, Billy. So
hello, Oak Moon Cat. What other name should I give you?
Yeah.
Billy,
brilliant.
Billy the Bard. I mean, come on.
Yeah, there you go.
And then you were Banjo something.
Banjo Billy.
Yeah.
Now people are calling me Billy the Bard because I'm playing all these instruments. Yeah, it's just like, I'm not ashamed of my dead name. I don't have a problem. My real dead name, I do have a problem with it. But it's funny because my sister named me after Annette Funicello, but I just hated Annette. So my dad, when I was young, I don't know how old I was, because why don't we change your name to Annie? It sounds like a boy's name. Because I was going around going, hey, my name is Billy or Bobby. I had these 2 names I wanted to be. So it's kind of hilarious that, I mean, I don't know what I was getting at with that, but yeah, I've definitely gone through. There was Mooncat, there was so many, but I did change from Annie to Billy, and that was my dad's name. That made it easier.
Okay, because it's Banjo Annie is your email address.
Yeah.
And okay.
So,
I mean, I'm not really ashamed of. Personally, this is my story, mainly because, like I said, that was so cute that my dad said it sounds like a boy's name. I mean, they knew they were from World War II generation. Who knows? He died when I was 19. I don't know how he would have really reacted to. It was hard enough for when I came out. He was so worried I wouldn't be taken care of, right? So I don't know how he would have reacted, but they did really well. They let me play with Tonkas. I didn't have to play with dolls, I mean, they were really, really cool about it. And my mom was very cool about me being very butch. She even called me after seeing some trans people on Oprah and said, and she was really old at this point. This was probably a year before she died or 2 years. And she was like, do you think you're trans? And I'm like, I think, yeah, Mom, I am. And at that point, I didn't want to do the hormones. I've always been Mr. Natural. And I just didn't want to be in the system. I didn't, I know a lot of people are anti-government now. I've been anti-government since I popped out of the womb. I was just, that's who I am. Punk rocker, anarchist, Mohawk,
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So have you managed this without drugs?
Oh no, I'm on hormones now.
Ah, that's what I thought. I thought, oh my God, how did you do that?
It was my voice that really got me. I was singing bluegrass, and it really, like, I had such dysphoria around my voice because I was really butch and I really carried it off. Your
voice was too high. You needed a lower register.
Oh yeah, and I heard a trans man sing, Steve. Or wait, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Stevenson. The Coyote Moon was the name of the band, or Coyote Grace. And I heard him sing and I went, wow, I want that. And at that point, I was already getting older. So I was on a couple of what I call corporate meds. Like I said, I'm real, like, I'll take a herb for a broken toe. So, I was just like, yeah, that's just who I've always been. And so I finally, like, I didn't have a girlfriend. Also, a lot of women were like, and it's not transphobia so much, it's that there are certain women that are very attracted to very butch women. And I was one of them. So the women I went out with, they really were like, God, we're losing all our butches. You're all becoming men. But let me tell you a little secret. 90% of them now go out with trans men. So it's like there's a certain attraction that's still there, right? Isn't it interesting? Like,
wow.
But yeah, so I finally bit the bullet. I thought I'd just go on the cream. And that's not as much of it. But after talking to a few doctors, also, this was very interesting too, is that my testosterone went through the roof right after my first shot. And my doctor was like, oh, I wish I would have tested your testosterone because I think you're probably on the spectrum.
You had enough? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that I was already. I would have never thought it. I'm very small. I think you and I are about the same height. I'm like 5'2".
Oh, no, you're tall. I'm 5 foot nothing.
Awesome. I love small people.
Small but mighty. That's what I always say.
Well, we used to say good goods in small parcels, and then they'd say, well, you never get poison in a big bottle. But anyway, So Liz has a question. Is Billy the Bard going completely by Oak now? Is that his preferred name, or does he go by both?
No, Oak is a name that I was initiated into reclaiming back when we used to initiate. So it's my old witchcraft name. And I use both. I use Billy the Bard, I use Oak, and people still call me Billy Banjo. So
all of the above.
And you know where Oak came from? I said that on my last show. So real quickly, my first activism, environmental activism, was to save old oak trees in California. They were cutting down some old oak trees, so that's where that came out. So
beautiful. Yeah. Robin says, as a younger person, I agree that we should give older people the benefit of the doubt as long as they're genuine and it's from a place of love. Unfortunately, mine shrug it off as being woke. Difficult. And Nimi says, I feel like myself since I altered my awkward birth name. And it's really interesting. I mean, people have changed their names for various reasons. And it's okay, there's a question. Oh, Billy the Oaken Bard, says Jane. So Druid Wendigo says, can any of you speak to digesting these ideas within the context of Druidry when some of us don't find those perceptions helpful or truthful? I'm not too sure which perceptions.
I don't know either.
Okay, I'm not too sure. Okay. Oh, okay. So he said earlier, I'm thrilled to have stumbled on this live today. I've been struggling lately as I go through the Bardic course with some of the presentations. Oh, perceived feminine and masculine qualities. Okay. Sorry, Druid, or Wendigo, I hadn't seen that. So, okay.
Do you want to go first on that? I think we can both kind of give our perspective on that.
I mean, okay, so I know one of the things I love about Druidry, and particularly Obod, is even though traditionally, if you look back on it, most of our, we were very binary. We've become less binary as time has gone by. And I know that we are still making progress. That's one of the things I do appreciate with Obod, with our rituals, is that we do have a lot of flexibility. And I think that hopefully that will just continue to grow. What I have found in the course of the recent conversations about the UK Supreme Court decision on that particular article of the Equality Act is that our community, by and large, is very supportive of transgender people, queer people in general. And a lot of queer people are part of OBOD, so that would make sense. I'm also studying with Anglesey Druid Order as well, which we are, I think, the only order that actually has a chief that is gay. And I so appreciate Christopher for that. But I appreciate everybody in OBOD. I have felt very, very welcomed. I didn't announce myself as a transgender woman. A lot of people didn't even know, but I feel comfortable talking about it with our community. Same as I do here in New Mexico with our pan-pagan community that Billy and I are both involved in. I feel comfortable being an out trans woman. I don't feel like that I have anything to fear with the people that I associate with here. Now, that doesn't mean I just go around announcing this to everybody. But as far as my practice, I do feel like it is kind of, again, this liminal place of where, how can we be both and? How can we like bring both of those energies into, because sometimes a lot of times, especially in New Mexico, we're doing solitary rituals. And and my daily ritual practices are always solitary. Very seldom would they include anybody else. So I have to bring all of those energies myself, not just the feminine energy. I have to bring masculine energy too, because this is what the world gives us. You know, La Luna, the moon. She's like, oh my God, I go dancing naked out under the moon. I love being out there, and the same with greeting the sun in the morning. And that for me is more like masculine energy. But both of them are very nurturing and energizing in their different ways. And I need both. I can't just have the sun, can't just have the moon. So that's what I would say is like for all of us, whether you identify on the binary or you identify somewhere along that spectrum, or you don't identify with that at all, it's like you can still use that energy. It's out there because the world is full of it. So that's my little spiel.
It's your spiel. So I think that our literature was written a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what we have now. I mean, you guys have been redoing it, putting it out. But it's really based on some stuff that was written, how many years ago now? Do you know off the top of your head?
50. Well, no, more than that, 60.
Last year was the 60th.
60 years ago. So, and the core of it is, I think, perfect. And I'm somebody who, I've been in pagan communities since 1982. So when I found this, and I didn't find it until 10 years ago, you know, it wasn't in my radar. I might have heard it. I might have heard about Druids, but I was fine and reclaiming. So this was written back then. I was around, 40 years ago. And 40 years ago, it was quite binary also, but it was still a safe place for queer people in general, for spiritual practice. So I found that when I started hearing people with their complaints, I'm like, step back a little, because our pagan communities are changing everywhere. We're changing the wording. We're changing, give our brothers and sisters some time to step up and change some things. That's how come I reached out to you when I heard there were complaints that you guys didn't put something out quick enough. Well, it's right there in the literature, but I've had to read. I'm older. I've had to read between the lines longer, and again, I too, because I'm 67 and I started in pagan communities in 82. I work with both, but I do work with some binary ideas. I grew up with those. And I also, like, another thing that came up at one of our conferences a few years ago, that people were kind of bashing some of the elders. And it's like, wait a minute, stop. this is what they believed in years. They want to believe that there's a god and a goddess, and they work with that, and that's what makes things happen. Let them believe that. You can believe this more, a non-binary approach. I have evolved from an approach of very god and goddesses to now being very much like Hecate represents more of the fall and shadow work. It doesn't really represent a being to me anymore. Starhawk once said that I used to pray to the goddesses. Now I pray to compost. I mean, it's like our communities are evolving, but what's the difference between us and a lot of other communities? We can evolve. Mm-hmm. And
the thing is, I still think binary is good and non-binary is good.
Yes.
It's both and.
You cannot reproduce without male and female, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's just
there. So, and I think looking at what's a feminine quality, what's a masculine quality, I think it's a very good idea to reflect on that. And you say, do you know what? It's a load of. I was going to say something. I'm not going to say it. You go. My late husband wore a skirt, and he was a stay-at-home dad once he retired and did all the cooking. So, but he had a beard. And what does that mean? So our kids were brought up, home educated, with two parents who worked outside the home, and then one retired, and the man, and stayed home. So all of that, and none of it, they were not confused by it. So I think if you want to have, you say there's a duality in terms of deity, a goddess and God. Fine. Yeah. No, Bob, we don't argue. Some are atheistic and say there are no gods. Fine. I'm animistic. I'm theistic. I weave my way when we're not dealing with facts. We're dealing with what works for us. And that's the thing. So Nerida says we all have both feminine and masculine. The feminine is the nurturing, emotionally available side of us, and the masculine is the strong part. Well, you see, you could even challenge that.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
But if that's what it means to you, fine. The thing is, when we start fighting over it, or we start getting offended,
right,
because somebody is using binary language, it's like, it's still valid. That's what I'm saying. It's still valid.
Also,
and the other ways of looking at it are also valid. It's when people get offended by someone's point of view, who is just stating it rather than stating it as dogma and pushing it.
Also,
so it's about being able to hold on.
I think giving OBOD a chance to evolve and to change. And like I said, in the 10 years I've been there, I've seen it. It's still, our literature will read past that. I did. And you're going to feel more comfortable and get in community, because once you're in community, you're going to see, like, once I got to know you, like, we've only got to know each other, but we've sat down and had in-depth conversations now 3 times. So once you get to know people in the order and get to know our leaders of the order, Dave, people like that who have reached out to me in a very sweet way, you'll start to see that this community is very much evolving, and there is a seat at the table for us.
By our actions shall you know us, not by our words.
There you go. Right out of the Bible. I love that.
You can have, sorry, I did that especially for you, Rian.
I thought so.
you can have all the policies and you can have all the statements.
Absolutely.
And it means nothing. By your actions shall you know us. So when you come to a gathering, you'll know how welcome. And whether that is, Wendigo says, I have a big problem with that softness versus strength. Okay, the thing is, you work that out for yourself. That is someone else's view, and just leave it. And you go, that doesn't work for me. So Nimi says her husband does the cooking and she does the power tools. So I do the power tools. We know what we're good at and we love it. So there are norms and there are no norms. And you don't have to get offended by something that doesn't work for you, is my point.
Yeah. Eimear, I had this thought too, like thinking about the Guerci and our use of myth and storytellings, particularly, that important story of Caradwyn and Gwion Bach / Taliesin. When I think about these stories and I think about the characters in them, we can be any of those characters. It does not matter how we identify on a binary or not identify at all. Every one of those characters is us at certain points in our life. And so I do strongly identify with Caradwyn at times, but I also definitely identify with poor little innocent Gwion Bach.
Absolutely.
But also Taliesin. And I'm like, and I often when I tell a story, when I'm in a bardic circle, open mic, I like to invoke the ancestors. I like to invoke Caradwyn if I am telling particularly a Celtic story, and ask for her to pour her Awen out through me, that people might be blessed in the hearing of the story. That kind of comes from my days in ministry, when before the sermon, I would say, may the words of my lips and the meditation of my heart, blah, blah, blah. And basically, may people be blessed in the hearing of these words. May I speak truth and may they be received. So I still strongly believe in that element of asking for wisdom in what I say in the moment, that I say the right thing, and that also believing that the person that needs to hear that is in that audience, and that their ears would be opened and their hearts would be open to receive that message. Because we know these stories are very powerful stories, whether they're of England, Wales, Ireland, Scotland, Norse, or Native American. These are all powerful stories full of these archetypal characters. And I think about this in relationship to this, but also like tarot. Again, any of the tarot archetypes in the major arcana can apply to anybody. It doesn't matter that it's the Empress card and you identify as
Absolutely.
You might be the Empress, or she might be working with you or through you or telling you something. None of that matters in the big scheme of things, because we are more than genders.
Yeah.
We are more than identities. These are the vehicles for our interaction in this present reality.
You know, and
I think that's exactly what it is. These are vehicles, or they provide a framework. Wendigo, I wasn't referring to you thinking that you were offended. It's about asking questions to receive some clarity, and I think that's absolutely. I think, without going into detail around the Gwers, what you're invited to do is to engage with those, interrogate them for yourself, and work on it, because it's a mystery school. It's a personal, private journey. It's a personal development journey. It's a spiritual development path, and you, because I had to work through that myself. Those particular, this masculine, feminine stuff, but that you interrogate it and you make of it for yourself, and that can take time. That might take you years to work all of that out, but it's your journey, and that's really, really important. And Blake, you met Blake in Glastonbury. When I was in Glastonbury for the gathering early this month, so many conversations where we all agreed that there is a war behind keyboards. But once people are together having tea or pints, they find each other quite likable. Perhaps we all take a breath before we type. Just a thought, a very nice thought. And Blake says, the worst challenge how we think. I always felt that was the goal. And it is, because if you're looking for certainty, you're on the wrong bus or in the wrong order.
Absolutely.
It's not about, I remember doing, my training as a psychologist, doing a course in ethics. So the lecturer is talking about, what ethical dilemmas are and how you manage this as a work. And we go, well, what's the right thing? No, there is no answer. You have to work this out for yourself. Because this is what ethical dilemmas are. And that frustration when you're a rookie and you go, I need certainty because I'm nervous, I'm young, I'm new on this path. Please give me certainty. And the reason people join OBOD is they don't want certainty. They've probably left certainty and righteousness from other paths. So here you're coming into a place of uncertainty, and uncertainty is very uncomfortable, but this is what we do, is that we navigate the mystery of uncertainty, which is brilliant, and leaving ourselves open. So Sarah says, a very interesting discussion for me as a counselling student currently studying gender and sexuality. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Okay. Sorry, and now Billy, I was cutting across you. So you may speak now that I have spoken. Sorry about that.
No, I love everything that you said. there. And that was another part of what attracted me, without getting too much into the Gorsey, because we are a mystery tradition. But I found, like, listening to watching tea with a Druid and listening to Druidcast and just following on Facebook before I actually became a member, I'm like, this is also very Jungian. And Jung and Gnosticism, all of this stuff like has kind of like congealed and led me to this place. And that's I just find all of this stuff incredibly powerful and healing, especially this whole concept of working with the dark side. Mm-hmm. And it isn't what people think it is. It isn't, but it's still scary to do that, because you are now going to embrace your full power when you do that. And that's what I would say about, like, going back to the beginning about my feeling about how can I stand up here in the pulpit when I'm living a lie? How can I do this when I know who I really am inside and what my desires are, and yet I'm having to put on this persona for my congregation and for my family? And to embrace the truth is not always pleasant. It's not always easy. But in the end, all of those tears and that mental anguish that I had, suddenly when I made the decision that I was going to start seeing a therapist, I was going to see a doctor, I was going to start hormones, suddenly I was at peace with all of this. Yeah. And I actually came to the point of thanking the universe for the fact that I am trans, that I've had these different lives and these different experiences. So, I mean, I was married and presented as a straight man. I transitioned for like 3, 4, 5 years almost, detransitioned and lived as a gay man for 11. But again, I got to the point where I was really uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm a fraud. I'm still a fraud. I'm trans. I've never ceased to be who I am. And then I had to get back on my path. I felt called by the goddess, by the mother, to get back on my path after I moved here. And I dared not disobey, because I knew the consequences of that for my spirit it was just gonna further damage me.
So you detransitioned for 11 years.
I did.
And what were those 11 years like for you?
So I think part of it was I was not getting opportunities creatively that I wanted. So I really did get more heavily involved in theater. I did a ton of costume designing. I did pretty much everything you could do in theater. I directed shows. I loved my life. But then I was in a relationship with somebody also in the theater world. And it turned out not to be a good relationship for me. I should have never been in a relationship with this guy. And he was harming me, and I was letting him harm me. And because I wasn't being authentic. And I finally just, when I moved here, I was on a walk one day, and I just felt that, you get that voice. And she's like, honey, you got to get back on your path. You're not a gay man. You've tried this. This obviously does not work. And it's not just this guy. It's just not who you are. And so I started back on my path, and started back on hormones and therapy and all that. And I feel like my life has been so much better. And then also that man is not in my life. He hasn't been in my life in 7 years. So all of this is really good stuff. And then comes along with this OBOD. So I just feel like if I'm in the flow and I'm doing what my spirit is telling me to do, I'm having this really wonderful, wonderful life right now. I'm not saying any of it's easy. At times it's challenging, but I feel like I'm living my best life at this point. So
isn't that what we all want to be able to do, is to live our best life? And absolutely. So Billy, before we finish, this has been great. I really enjoyed this conversation. So just Copper says, the journey of OBOD is not to become a druid, more to find the druid within, however that presents. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And Wendigo says, thank you for your story and for this talk and your frankness. This is really, truly helpful to me today. Delighted to hear it, Wendigo. Jane says, Rhiannon, you're so incredible. Ricky Gallis. Ricky, wait! There's a druid within me. What happened to the two wolves? Oh, the wolves are there.
Oh, Ricky, you're so funny.
Let me assure you, Ricky, those wolves are there as well.
They're there.
Yes.
They are.
So, another tune?
Sure.
Okay.
As we say, Perth on Durris, a tune for the door.
Okay. And if you want one last poem, I have one more.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, like I said, I started writing some stuff when I picked up this. This is an octave mandolin, also known as a bouzouki, but I have it in a mandolin tuning for all you musicians out there. So.
I'm moving out of the way again.
I can hear the forest call. I can hear it whisper. I can hear that forest calling to me. Now breathe deep, breathe long. You're gonna breathe in this forest song. Now breathe long, you're gonna breathe in this forest song. I can hear the raven call. I can hear it whisper. I can hear the raven calling to me. Now breathe long, breathe this raven song. Now breathe long, breathe this raven song. Now breathe deep, breathe long. You're gonna breathe in this druid's song. Now breathe deep, breathe long and breathe in this druid's song. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Lovely, lovely, lovely.
That's my new hit.
Thank you, Billy.
I loved it. That was good. Okay, one more. This is also from that first volume of poetry I wrote, Venus on the Half Shell. It is a piece called Metamorphosis. Again, going back to this theme of alchemy, liminality, all of that, transition. Within the caterpillar beats the heart of the flutterbee, and the pollywog swims with the soul of the frog. They are not alone. All nature is in constant flux, transition, and metamorphosis. I often pondered what it feels like to exchange one body for another so different. In the case of humans, change is mostly inward, slow and pain-filled. A shedding of layer after layer, like a dragon skinned, its scaly hide ripped and peeled away by the tender and terrible claws of the lion bent on seeing who we truly are beneath our fearful guises. How difficult it is to change even one thing about ourselves to become so real in a world that prefers the disguises we have been compelled to wear by chance or majority vote. How hard it is to change. But I am part of nature, a wonder, a prodigy, a mere slip of a thing, though eternal. And how I long for the freedom that only comes through the rending of truth from lies, oh so reluctantly lived or died.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
I'm back.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jules says, you're both wonderful in your work, and thank you for sharing your stories. Now I have more hope for the future generations, be they, whoops, it's gone up, to be who they need to be. Thoroughly enjoy the music and poetry. Bless you. And Nimi says, love the energy. I love to hear you play live, Billy.
Yes.
So just wonderful. So thank you so, so much. So it is time to say goodbye. And I will allow you to say goodbye to our viewers.
Bye, everybody. Have a blessed day.
Okay, and I'm going to be very Welsh here. No swaith, no swaith, damn, sorry. No swaith.
I don't even know why she tries.
Because I get tongue-tied. I usually do it perfectly fine. Anyway, good night to all in English and Welsh. So I butchered Welsh.
I'll send you back to the green room. Don't go away, because then we can look at the comments afterwards. So listen, thank you all for joining me this evening, and wishing you a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, or if you're watching a recording of this, and I look forward to seeing you again. I will be in Canada, and hopefully I'm going to find a Canadian. I remember to be my guest in 2 weeks' time. So I'm going over there for a Druid camp. So in the meantime, many blessings for the summer solstice. Banachti Green Stad Antari Jiv Shikuler. So the 21st is this Saturday, and I wish you all the blessings of the sun in its full power. And may you all be well, and may you be fruitful and full of energy. And thank you again, as always, for coming to these chats and for your comments. And I really, really appreciate that. So until we meet again, Iwa, or Slán go fóill.